Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a first look at the all-new ONEXFLY from ONEXPlayer. So this is one that I've been wanting to get my hands on for a little while now. They actually announced this a few months back and it doesn't officially launch until August, but I've got an early prototype here, and if you're interested in learning a little more or signing up for their email list, I'll leave some links in the description. They will be launching in Indiegogo. And even though this is a prototype, it's actually pretty fleshed out and I've been having a great time with it. If you're not familiar with the ONEXFLY, that's totally fine. We're going to go over everything here. We're also going to get into some testing, but basically what we have here is a Ryzen 7000 series powered handheld. It's got a 7-inch 120Hz display, DDR5 RAM running at 7500 megatransfers per second, a 48 watt-hour battery with 65 watt quick charging capabilities, and the unit itself only weighs 580 grams. It's actually lighter than the ROG Ally and definitely lighter than the Steam Deck. And one thing I really love about the ONEXFLY is the sound system. We've got dual stereo speakers here. They're tuned by Harmon Kardon. They've got custom enclosures, and it is the best sounding handheld that I've been able to test so far. Really impressed with the sound here. It actually puts out a lot of bass given how small this unit is. I'll give you a little demo here. And I know it's not going to come across as good as it sounds in real life in a YouTube video, but I still wanted to kind of show this off. They are downward facing speakers, but they've got the custom enclosures here, tuned by Harmon Kardon. They sound absolutely amazing. Round back here, we've got these linear triggers with some pretty decent travel, and we've got 2 extra programmable macro buttons. So from software, we can set these buttons up any way we'd like. The joysticks are Hall sensor based, but they're the smaller Hall sensor joysticks, so they're kind of switch size. And the D-pad has been improved from their other handhelds. I was under the impression that it was going to use the same one from the ONEXPlayer Mini, but this is definitely a different D-pad. It's got some really nice roll to it and works out great for fighting games. Up top here, obviously, we've got those triggers, shoulder buttons, and those programmable macro buttons, along with our power button, volume rocker, a 3.5mm audio jack, USB 4, and a full-size USB 3.2 port. Love seeing this full-size port on these handhelds. Not much going on around back here. As you can see, this is a prototype, but it's got a soft touch finish, which comes in really handy for holding on to this for long periods of time. It's a single fan cooling system, and from the built-in software, we can go up to 30 watts. We can go higher with third party if you wanted to. But one of the big things here with the ONEXFLY are these nameplates. Now, originally, I was under the impression that these would be programmable from software, but unfortunately, they're not. They're customizable when you buy it. You can add your name if you'd like to. And they were kind enough to put ETAPRIME here on this prototype for me. I think it kind of sets it off. It does look really good. Obviously backlit from that RGB, and it's going to match up with the RGB around the analog sticks. This is fully programmable from software. But it would have been nice if these were OLED displays that we could program. Unfortunately, that's just not the case with the ONEXFLY. Down here, we can add a micro SD card for extra storage, and we've got another USB 4 port. These are actually running on 40 gig protocol. You could connect an eGPU to either one, the one from the top or the one from the bottom. When it comes to the specs of the new ONEXFLY, for the APU, they're utilizing the AMD Ryzen 7 7840U. Based on Zen 4, we've got 8 cores, 16 threads, a base clock of 3.3 GHz, and a boost up to 5.1. Built-in AMD Radeon 780M graphics based on RDNA3 with 12 CUs up to 2700 MHz. The unit I have in my possession has 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5X running at 7500 megatransfers per second, and a lot of these handhelds we've been seeing hit in the market only have 6400 MHz. It might not sound like a lot, but it does give us a nice little jump in performance, especially at those lower wattages. As a lot of us already know, our system RAM here with these iGPUs works as VRAM, and the faster we can get that, the better off we'll be. It's got a 120Hz, 7-inch 1080p IPS display, PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, 48 watt-hour battery with 65 watt quick charging capabilities, weighs 580 grams, and out of the box, this is running Windows 11. With the configurations they offer, they've got the black version and white version. You can go up to 64 gigabytes of RAM and 4 terabytes of storage. As we know, when it comes to the handheld market, there are a couple big competitors right now, like the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck. The ONEXFLY is actually coming in lighter and smaller than the ROG Ally, and in terms of performance, we've got that 7840U that the Ryzen Z1 Extreme is based on. Now with the 7840U, we do get that AI acceleration built in, and of course, when it comes to the Z1 Extreme, there has been some tweaking that's gone on from AMD to get a little better performance at lower TDPs with it, but the same can be done here, it just really depends on the manufacturer. Now, there are some other key differences here between the ONEXFLY and the ROG Ally. Like the One X does have faster RAM, coming in at 7500 MHz as opposed to 6400 MHz. Ultra narrow bezels around that 7-inch 120Hz display. It weighs 580 grams as opposed to 608. A 48 watt-hour battery versus the 40 watt-hour battery in the Ally. We've got two USB 4 ports and a full-size USB 3.2 port on the One X. I love having this extra I/O because I do dock my systems quite a bit. We can easily connect the Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, or USB 4 external GPU. We don't have to worry about that XG port that's on the Ally. And in my opinion, the new speaker system here they have in the ONEXFLY is the best on the market so far. It sounds so good. I mean, you definitely got to hear it for yourself. Really hard to come across in a YouTube video. Overall, really like the design. It is comfortable, and it's only 580 grams. It's one of the lightest handhelds powered by this Ryzen 7000 series APU to hit the market so far. And again, we will test this D-pad out in a fighting game by the end of the video. But yeah, I mean, I really do like the way it looks. RGB definitely sets it off. We've got a couple extra function buttons down here. This one will bring up an on-screen keyboard at any time. And this one is going to bring up our One X Game Center. So there's a lot that's gone into this since the last time we've taken a look at it. At any given time, we can bring this up even during a game. We can fully adjust our TDP from 5 watts up to 30 watts right now in Game Center, but you can go higher with this system here using a third-party software if you wanted to. You can disable the turbo on the CPU or turn it on, and since this runs at 3.3 gigahertz, a lot of the times you don't need that turbo. It'll definitely save some power. Adjust our fan curve. You can set up custom profiles. Adjust our RGB around the analog sticks and the nameplates. There's a lot of awesome presets here, my favorite being Cyberpunk, but you can go with Rainbow, you could go with the original One X, which will give us that orange, or you could go with solid colors if you wanted to. We can also change our resolution directly from here, change the brightness of the screen and volume, but one of the newest additions to their software is the Game Center itself. Holding that One X button for about 3 seconds is going to bring up our Game Center, and from here we can get this to scan our default directories, or you can manually scan different directories if you wanted to. It's going to detect the games that we have installed, download some box art, some more artwork and metadata. Plus, we can set up custom performance profiles for each one of these games. It's definitely come a long way since it launched, but they still got a little more work to do. I think they can definitely add more settings, but updates are continuously rolling out. And by the way, if you're on an older One X player, you can download this directly from their website. It's going to work with those also. Overall, they've really tried to make the user experience with these Windows-based handhelds a lot easier, and they're on the right track for sure, but a little more needs to go into this. And since we are receiving continuous updates with this, it's only a matter of time. Now, the very first thing I wanted to take a look at were some benchmarks with the new ONEXFLY. And keep in mind, these benchmarks were run at 28 watts, single core 2281, multi 8985. Now, I've seen much higher on the multi here. Not exactly sure what's going on, but with a little bit of tweaking, we could get up into the 11,000s, I'm sure of it. Next up, we've got some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark. Firestrike came in with the 7,332, and finally, TimeSpy with a super impressive 3,341. One of the highest scores I've seen from a Ryzen APU so far. These integrated graphics are really trucking along, especially paired up with that 7,500 MHz RAM, but these are synthetic benchmarks. Now it's time to check out some real-world gaming. First game we have here is Spiderman Miles Morales. Keep in mind you're going to get the same kind of performance with Spider-Man Remastered. We are at 28 watts right now, 720p low. This is one of those games that's really hard on these iGPUs. There are some tweaks you can do to get better performance with this game, like setting a static GPU clock, but I kind of wanted to see how it performed out of the box. And it's not bad, but with this game, we do get dips under 60. One thing we could do here is take FSR to ultra performance, but it really doesn't look great, especially given that we're already at 720p. Next thing I wanted to do was just kind of show off this D-pad and Street Fighter 6. So here we have it at 1080p medium, and we're only at 15 watts. This game has definitely received a lot of updates and performs much better on these APUs now since launch, and I'm really glad that they've kind of modified this D-pad. I was afraid it was going to be the same one from the One X Mini, but it does feel a bit lighter, has a little more roll to it, and it works out much better than the older one did. Next game I wanted to test was Cyberpunk 2077. We're at 1080p low, 29 watts. Now in order to run this at 1080p on these APUs, we do have to hit up some higher wattage. At least if you want to run it at 60 FPS, but at 720p we can actually take that wattage down and get well over 60. So from the settings, we're just going to take it down to 720. Now on the fly, we can change that TDP. So I'm going to take it from 29 down to 20 watts. And we're going to see some really great performance here. We can even go down to 15, but I wanted to show you how far we could go over 60. We get an average of 76 FPS at 20 watts on the ONEXFLY with Cyberpunk 2077, 720p low settings. And since we have such a compact screen coming in at 7 inches, it still looks great here at 720. I also wanted to test control, so here we have it at 720p low, 28 watts, and we don't need to quite run this at 28 watts, but you'll see this performance. It's really great, but I did get a few dips here and there. I really do think it had a lot to do with shaders caching, but you know, at 28 watts on the 7840U, we can get an average of 86 FPS, which is really good for a game like this. And taking it down to 20 watts, locking it at 60, you can have a really smooth time with this game. Here's the built-in benchmark for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. We're at 1080p, lowest settings, 28 watts. 720, obviously we're going to get much better performance out of it, but I left it right there at 1080. We got an average of 61 FPS, and at 720, we can get an average of 73 FPS. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is playable on this device. And the final one I wanted to test, at least for this video, was Hogwarts Legacy. 720p, low, 28 watts. All of these games are going to play at 1080, 30 FPS if you want to, at a much lower wattage. But with these newer AAA games and these newer RDNA3 APUs, taking that wattage up really does help. And I'd say a good sweet spot for this little setup here is around 24 watts. First impressions of the ONEXFLY, I personally do like the design. I think it looks great. You can get it in black or white, very light, super comfortable to hang on to, fits right in your palms. The best sound system that I've heard out of a handheld so far. It gets really loud. We've got some bass. The mids and highs are super clean on this setup. Really like what they've done here with that sound system. It's got a beautiful 7-inch, 120 Hz, 1080p display. Looking really good here. Awesome colors. Overall, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good competitor, but in the end, it's really going to come down to the final price tag, and unfortunately, I don't have the final price yet. They will have this up on Indiegogo. They'll have an early bird special, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to meet the ROG Ally's price or not. It would be nice if they could, and this would be a great choice for people who just either don't like the design of the Ally, don't like ASUS, or just want something that's a bit lighter with a little bit of a bigger battery. As soon as I get word on final pricing, I will list it in the description. I'll also post it up in my community section, but there is some other stuff that I'd like to test with this device. There's more games that I want to run. I've got a few tweaks here and there that I've been using on other handhelds that would definitely go really nice with the 7840U we have here. Emulation performance would be another great thing to test out, and I'd also love to install an optional operating system like SteamOS 3. So if there's anything else you want to see running on the new ONEXFLY, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more, I'm leaving links to their official website and their Indiegogo sign up page. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you've got any questions, let me know down below. Like always, thanks for watching.